Yeah, why not? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna give you some terminology. Yeah. It's sort of like, like a mail slot in the door. Yeah. So the message has to be, it's put into words, or the words carry it, but the message isn't the words. Yeah. To understand isn't the key. Yeah. Something in you will absorb it, and then it will make what it's going to make out of it, and almost like regurgitates it, and then you get to know about it later as this. Yeah. I have a lot of faith in it. So well, let me just give you an idea of what happened with me. When I was young, I felt, I don't know, I just felt uncomfortable in my own skin. The head seemed to be pretty strong. Its opinion of me wasn't that good, so it was presenting a lot of bad news all the time, and it had me a little bit irritable, restlessness, and discontent, yes? And so I was looking to get it to escape quite a lot since I was about 6 years old. I ended up going through drugs and alcohol, and that took me on a long little trip. And I ended up, getting struck sober, basically, when I was 36. And then things just started to happen, yeah. Once I stopped using the drugs and alcohol, it's sort of like other things could land at the airport, so to speak, and other nicer passengers, a lot of information. And I started to come to the conclusion that in recovery we say I had been living my life trying to get out of self, this feeling of being the doer, the thinker, the body, the haver, the one who is there, the one that's gonna be there. That sense of oneness or individuality, or a sense of being a cause, that self can't get out of self. Yeah. So I felt that what I wanted to get relief from, I didn't know it, but I was in the act of being identified as it. So when I entertained the idea of peace, it was as that, not from it. Yeah. So in a way, it neutered all of my, let's say, longings, and it sort of booby-trapped all the spiritual practices, because while I was practicing, or let's say meditating, my head was claiming to be the meditator, So whatever it got in contact with by this, so when I would do something, it would claim to be the one that was doing it. So I realized I'm not going to get out of the doer by doing. Yeah? The doing is going to be used by the head to reinforce the doer. And I believe there was some doing that was more noble than other doing. Like meditation was much more noble than doing the dishes. And I had a belief, it was proven to be wrong, but I had a belief that if I did certain 5,000-year-old practices and stuff of that would succeed. I would get out of self by using those tools, but it didn't work for me, yeah? I would go on retreats and I'd meditate 14 hours, and there would be a real strong sense as I'm the meditator, yeah? And I couldn't get out of the feeling of being the one that was doing it by the doing. And it went on I had a lot of evidence something wasn't working, but the weird thing is, when something doesn't work, you usually don't investigate that, you blame it on yourself. I didn't practice enough, I should have stayed another week, I should have meditated 14 hours, so if they told me you should hold a position for 16 minutes and then something's gonna happen, if it didn't, I would say maybe I should have done it for 17 minutes, and then it goes on and on and on, and it's sort of like the carrot in front of the donkey. You just keep going and going with the hopes that, all right, if 3 weeks didn't work, maybe 3 months will work, yeah? If I haven't gone to India, I'll go to India, and then I'll go to Tibet, and I'll do some other stuff, and that should do it. And then it just goes on and on and on, but you can't get fundamentally out of what you're not in. Yes.
How you do the switch between identifying yourself with the person, with the doer, and realizing that you are awareness, but not from the mental perspective. You know, how there is no switch because it's unreal, right?
Yes.
But something has to happen. Some kind of intellectual understanding has to take place. Some movement have to.
It doesn't have to. It may.
Well, I want to move. I mean, if you want to get the understanding or have this click, it's going to be within the unreal, spectrum. You know, because I think as a person, and anyway, how do I move from the person, or how do I move my intellect to get that I'm not the person and I'm not the doer, but
well, by coming to realizing you're not that wants to get in or out, yeah? Because your own interest, if you want the click to happen, that's the biggest deterrent. Because how can you click what's happening? It's already on. This is the dilemma that it's hard to see. In a way, your own vested interest becomes the biggest obscuring agent. Yeah, I just don't know why, but that's what happens. And maybe it would be easier to hear a message like now and save yourself a lot of time, because you're going to end up there anyway. After 20 years of practice, you're going to freaking realize, you've been trying to watch that movie, and there's a big head that's always in the way, and you realize it's your head, and sort of like a rude awakening. And then you see, this is trip. So in recovery, we have this statement, you got to quit playing God, yeah? So I believe if you look at your head, it's like it's playing God, right? You wake up in the morning, it tells you how the day's going to be, how your wife's going to be, how the job's going to be, how the next year's going to be. And basically, a lot of times, if you believe it, you just don't get up. So let's say you're afraid of going to work, you'll be fired, so you don't go work and you get fired, So it's got a weird fulfilling prophecy. So this thing that's playing God, the head, basically, it's not a head, but the narration. If it hears the message, hey, you got to quit playing God, there's a little dilemma there, because that which is playing God, when it tries to stop playing God, that's playing God, yeah? That's the dilemma. It's a simple little dilemma, but it's there before everything. And it's not going to be corrected by what comes after. You have to see it before, yeah? Once it's in place, you're trying to correct it, is it, yeah? So that which is playing God tries to correct playing God. That's playing God ad infinitum. Just goes on and on and on. And not one part of the link or the chain is that activity going to snap it. Because it's going to be that which is playing God, reinforcing itself by trying to quit playing God. This is the little dilemma. It's said in thousands of ways if you read certain stuff in old Zen, not Japanese Zen, but old Zen, Chinese Zen. And there's masters like Raman Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj and all this stuff. They're basically always trying to bring us back to that point where the greatest mystery is that reality is attempting to attain reality. Yeah? Or the biggest problem, the problem is there's a presupposing by the mental state of a non-existent thing, the body, wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing. Yeah. And if this is what's happening, he gives us a warning. He says, your spiritual practices themselves will be reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy the non-existent thing? So in a way, this message is sort of like a pair of shoes, yeah? Come into a satsang, it's like a spiritual shoe store. So I hear that, it goes on, fucking it fits. Starts explaining a lot to me, like incredibly a lot to me. And I'm like caught with my pants down. Now I don't pull the pants up. Just get used to getting caught with your pants down, because that's what's going to happen. So then you just walk around, and what occurs is, it isn't that you lose interest in the need to be liberated, because that which needs to be liberated isn't you. Just like if there was someone I was interested in, like biblically, a woman that was in a meeting over here, and we're here, and I'm supposed to be doing this talk, but I'm really keen on listening to see if she says, hey, I like that guy Paul in the other room, yeah? Because then I'll meet her outside, ask her for coffee and stuff. Maybe we'll conceive my first child, who knows? That's how the head goes. So I'm very interested in her talking, and I'm listening, and I'm people are realizing, you don't seem to be here. So I try to get back here, but no. And then another guy comes and puts a book, How to Lose Interest in a Conversation in Another Room. So I page through it, I agree with it, but my interest and attentions are like cats. They're not following my direction. They want that freak, they want to know what's happening. So suddenly she starts talking, and I'm really keen, and she says, you know, I like that guy Matt, and my name's Paul. What happens? The interest, you don't have to send like troops to get your interest back. As soon as it's recognized it's not about you, all the interest comes back, yeah? This is the sort of the key. You can't lose interest when you're interested in losing interest. If you're interested in losing interest, that's interest, yeah? That's when you take a 2-year course on self-obsession, that could be construed as obsession with self. So you see, like any other animal or whatever doesn't have this thing because you are what you're looking for. See, this is the dilemma. This is not like looking for something outside of you. Therefore, you can see it, plan how to get it, acquire it. Maybe you live with a little fear you could lose it at any moment, but you'll probably be successful. But you can't apply that to what you are. You, as what you're not, cannot look for, is never going to find what you are. It can look for it, but they're looking for what you are from what you're not is the blindness to what you're not. Because what's looking is what you're looking for, as St. Francis said. Very clear, very simple, direct message. What's looking, not who's looking. What's looking is what you're looking for. Hold on a second. So here's the attention going out from what's looking, and then it goes through us, which is the you, yeah, Paul, and then Paul is busily, because Paul doesn't see itself as what's looking, it sees itself as Paul, and then suddenly my own nature becomes an object that my false nature wants to find. There you have it. That's the whole message. To me, I'm in Hamburg, Germany to warn you, basically. Not to inspire you, not to fucking, oh, it's going to be a lifelong process and you'll get different color belts and a hierarchy. No. This is fundamentally a warning that a lot of masters have put out there. It's usually underemphasized because the dilemma is what's hearing the message is more important than the message. Because the message, no matter what it is, it's being heard, and let's say you're a lion, but your lionhood is sort of formed as a sheep. So you're hearing everything, hey, you're a lion. You would think a lion would get it pretty clearly. You know, maybe the lion forgot for a split second, so he gets a reminder, hey, you're a lion. Oh, very clear, you're a lion, I got it. But what happens? Why is it that when we hear a description of what we supposedly are, you know, emptiness, whatever, it doesn't get through? How can emptiness miss the description of itself? Something is obscuring the message. So here you go. You're a lion. 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 Very simple. And because you're lions, that's the end of the meeting. Like 20 seconds. You're a lion. You're a lion. You're a lion. You're a lion. That's it. Because you're a lion already. Yeah? There's not much you have to do after you see that you're a lion. But the dilemma is how we're hearing it is like formulated as being a sheep. We're identified as something that we're not. That's what's happening. And we're hearing about us from the vantage point of what we're not. So now we get caught in, I'm looking for what I am from what I'm not, instead of seeing what I'm not from what I am. Really, that's it. It's a switcheroo. And then it's up, you'll find out what you're called to do. But unless this is humbly, the only reason why I've never left this point for years, because I really believe it's pointless if this isn't clear. The robbery will continue. Your doing will be used to infer the doer. And the bondage isn't by the actions, the bondage is about the actor. Thoughts are used to bind, but the thoughts are used to bind us to the idea of being the thinker. The feelings are being used by the mental state to imply you're the feeler. Yeah? So all these activities that are happening all day, feeling, thinking, acting, they're not just going on innocently. The mental state is claiming them. And it's using them to imply that the actions mean there's an actor. That all the feelings mean there's one feeler. All the thinking means there's one thinker. This is the bondage of self. And you know what? The anchoring is the body. So now, as soon as you feel like you're the doer, as soon as you feel like you're the thinker, the thoughts are happening in my head, like they're in here, you know, like they're in the brain. Or when you start feeling, every one of those fucking feelings are mine. No one's had this feeling. I had this experience in recovery from alcohol and drugs. They have meetings, not like this, they usually sit around. And I walked in after years of addiction, and it wasn't the addiction, it was the obsession with self. And I had a thick shell of terminal uniqueness, yeah? I thought no one felt like I did. No one ever thought like I did. No one did this crazy things that I did. And I would sit and listen to people share their thoughts, feelings, what they called theirs, feelings, thoughts, and actions. And I could only come to two conclusions after 4 months, which is, how did these people get my thoughts? Because they sure sound like what's going on in the head. And how did they get my feelings? Or they're not my feelings. Or they're not my thoughts. And then suddenly, the ring of mental satin moved, and I had a little space, yes? And the difference was, I was holding all those thoughts as mine, and suddenly the mind dropped out. All the thoughts were still happening, but this little addition of ownership dropped, and I had space before the thought. And a lot of thoughts that used to compel an action were misfiring. They weren't compelling an action, yeah? They would come in and they'd go by and there would be no action. They wouldn't motivate an action, because the action is what's going to get you convicted out here, yeah? I could think about I hate my girlfriend 50 times, but if I say it once, it's a different story, because I may go out and get drunk and forget I said it, but now she hasn't, and nor all the 50 friends she called, and suddenly you hate me. It's over. So the point is, thoughts are attempting, they're almost like fish trying to break the surface. The thoughts are attempting to compel an action, yeah? Because if they compel an action, they have an effect, and they want to have a splash. And they can't have a splash but through us. So doesn't it seem when the thoughts are happening, doesn't it seem like they're playing to an audience? Doesn't it feel like sometimes they're trying to convince someone to do something? You would think if it was you, you'd just fucking do it. It seems like you're reluctant a lot of the time, and so it works on you for freaking hours, and then finally you go fuck it and you do something stupid. Yeah? What is that? The thoughts, the mental state knows exactly what's so. It knows it's not so. Completely. That's why it has an underlying anxiety. It can't believe what it's getting away with. The murders get away with. It would imagine we would wake up quickly, and it's had us for like 50 years. Yeah. Yes.
So there is something to be done to train your mind.
No training. Just see. Just
see. It's easy to say, you know, but there's a complete suitcase full of several kinds of identifications and ideas and beliefs, and how do you want to get rid of that? I mean, it would be.
How do you get rid of them? Really, is by realizing you're not that has interest in getting rid of them. Seriously, it's more about acceptance. That's what allows things to change, not fucking managing.
Surrender that.
It's a surrender, but it's not even that. See, most people don't even know what surrender is to themselves. You believe surrender would be provoked by a terrible event, but no, it may not. Something happened to me the day I got sober, and I have coined it a surrender, because it showed in a graphic headline, I'm fucked, yeah? Now, I'd been fucked for quite a while, but it was like news to me. But it went somewhere, not up here, let's say we call it the innermost. It went somewhere, and I've been convinced that I'm not managerial quality for 30-something years. And I have no desire or any thoughts about doing drugs or anything. So in a weird way, a problem doesn't even exist for me that was the dominant influence in most of my life. What the fuck could do that? It sure wasn't me, and it sure wasn't you. Something did, something initiated. You want to call it grace? And of course, then, yes, the action figure is going to have its thing to do. But why is it, see, the action figure is like a self-maintenance car. Yeah? If you stop calling it the center of the universe, it knows, it goes, it does things, it picks up, that food isn't working and stuff like that, yes? And then the action figure needs like a bag of skillful needs, but you aren't, you are untouchable. And why not have a little of that possibility come into all the other possibilities you're entertaining in here? Why wouldn't you let what is absolutely before everything, yeah, become the greatest effect in this place, instead of having everything that comes after affect you? How about outshining circumstances and situations? That can't be done. It can only be expressed. So the mind changes, and then new behaviors or new expressions occur that weren't produced, they're expressed. They were always latently available, like everything is latently available. You know what I mean? Everything is a possibility. We're like that which brings that possibility into expression. Most of us are expressing the mental state. That's why we have tons of fucking anxiety about yesterday and tomorrow. Yet we're only rooted here and now, but here and now doesn't seem to have the strongest influence. Yesterday and tomorrow does in the mental realm. Most people's problems are in what's not happening. Next week is what's flipping them out, and last week is what's flipping them out. And then they come in here where there's no apparent threat, but they're flipped out. How are you gonna fucking solve that problem if it's imaginary? If I start treating it to be real, I make it fucking real. So, you know, I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and my specialty was gonna be what's not happening. And I'd only work one day. That's all I need. My whole career, I could retire. And I'd make 60 appointments, because I know, but everyone thought they had an hour session. They'd come in, Mr. Smith, start bitching about last week or next week. I go, Mr. Smith, that's not happening. See you next week. What? Why would, as soon as I apply a solution to an imaginary problem, that's the fucking problem. You don't see it?
I know it's exhausting, but it's exhausting.
What's happening? We're what's happening, like it or not. We are what's happening. When we entertain what's not happening, we can make it seem to happen. Nothing else can. Labradors aren't worried about playing fetch next week. They're not. They're not. They're not sitting there, their pale tail totally rigid and their paws. No, you can throw the ball 800 fucking times. They're gonna be so fucking thrilled. That's why they made those things, because people's arms were falling off. You go see a kid, whoo, the kid's same reaction 40 times. Fuck it, I've seen that. You know, we're like dead in a lot of ways. And how could that be if we're all that there is? We seem like we're out to lunch because we are. So when someone's here and they're flipped out, it's not about now. It's never about now. It's a slavery, really, to me, completely a slavery. We're enslaved to thoughts because we think they're ours. Someone else's thoughts has no effect on me. You could be totally flipped out right now, and it's not contagious. It really isn't. I could sit right next to you. The flu is more contagious. Yeah, sit there. But the same thoughts that are driving you crazy, if I held them as mine, they'd have the ability to drive me crazy. When I see them as yours, I have an immunity. When I hold them as mine, wow, they have power. Where do they get the power? The thought? No, from us. We're like an incredible resource of light, let's say, and I believe it's being misdirected, that's all. The mental state is taking the light and running it through its little lenses, this little kaleidoscope, and then time seems fucking real, you're vulnerable, everything can be taken away from you, you'll never be loved, you'll lose what you love, you'll da-da-da-da-da. And Jesus Christ, that little kid when you were open and playing is like a fucking flipped out adult. I don't know. I just don't, I believe all you need to hear is another possibility, really. Not you, but you, yeah? This message is never to you. It's to what you are. Because if I talk to you about what you are, it doesn't go anywhere. But if I talk to what you are about you, it goes somewhere. Because what you are may go, hey, I'm not that. Yeah? That's the way it works. Yeah, that's it. And see, my specialty is just this. I don't know what you need to do to take care of the action figure. I don't. Yoga may work, Tai Chi, I don't know. But that's not my business. I'm like a cod salesman, like the fish, cod, yeah? You can have a lot of opinions about mackerel and salmon, but it's a cod. You know, you can grill it, you can sushi it, but you're gonna get cod. You know, I don't know what you're gonna do. You can find your own skillful means. Maybe the action figure needs a way of life. Like for me, it was recovery. Maybe it will be a yoga community. Maybe it'll be the, Chamber of Commerce. I don't know what. That's not, I'm just sharing you a simple invitation because I believe it will allow this, which you're not, to travel lighter. Seriously. Because time is a bitch. You can have everything lined up at 9 in the morning and it's great, and 9:02 it can look like Armageddon, yeah? There's something weird. Time is an incredible force that's demanding us to keep fucking showing up, and we're really not up to the task, to tell you the truth. That's why people are taking tons of fucking pills. That's why someone will watch a lousy movie 8 times, because they just fucking don't want to be bored. That's why they'll work like a slave, because they can't handle time on their own. Yeah? There's a freedom, but the freedom is not produced. It's available. The freedom is before the bondage, not after the bondage. After the bondage, there's something real that has you bound. Yeah? You have to use a lot of oil and fucking work hard. Before the bondage, you see it as an imaginary situation. Yeah? So the freedom is before, not after. It's just a taste. Once you get it, it'll be like, can you imagine if all your tastes that you've ever had in this life missed this one taste, and then you get it? You get a sample of it? And then your mind can entertain. Wow. And now you start tasting that taste more and more, because you're the one that produces the taste. Yeah?
Yeah, but it's the mind, the one who has to do the understanding, right? It's the mind, my own mind needs to understand that it's not this body-mind entity or this action figure. No. Mind, the big mind I'm talking about, already knows. Yeah. You don't want to talk to the, let's say, call it the little mind. It doesn't go anywhere. So let's say if you want to talk about dreaming as an event, and then the dreamt hears it, this hears it, then it goes, oh, I'm going to dream 50 virgins, 70 Rolls Royces, great joints, everything's going to go fantastic. See, this is how it mutates it. If the dreaming hears it, it has acceptance around what's happening, yeah? When the dreaming hears it's the dreaming, it's not an argument that much with the dreaming. It can accept it. Maybe there's an acceptance and then a need to change, but it's fucking honored as it's happening, yeah? So the message isn't to the dreamt, yeah, and isn't to the conditional head, it's to mind, raw mind, yeah? And then that will get regurgitated and download into the action figure, but by then, by the time the action figure figures it out, it's too late. It can't get before it and fuck it up, basically. That's what happens. It can't get before and say, oh, I lost it, or I'm going to lose it. It doesn't play anymore, because what's before, nothing's before. So there's nothing to be done.
There's tons of shit to be done.
Well,
I don't know what that is, but not for this.
Not for this, that's what I mean. Okay.
Why not get the starting point correct? Yeah? You are what you're looking for, but not as what's looking, you know? You're not, the you that's looking for it isn't what you're looking for. Yeah? You are what you're looking for. The seeker is the sought. And then Ramana would say you cannot use, no, Huang Po, a great Zen master, you cannot use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Now, would he say that if you were truly Steve, or Mary, or Francesca, or Bill? Yeah, so let's, hold on. So you're looking at everyone here. He's not going Steve, Bill, Manny, Jeff, Matilda. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. He's talking to the Buddha. So he's telling the Buddha, aka Steve, Mary, Jim, Bill, and he's telling the Buddha, so he's not talking to Steve, he's talking to the Buddha, though Steve thinks it's getting talked to. It isn't. The direction of the message is not to Steve, it's about Steve. So the Buddha hears the message, you can't use yourself to find yourself. How confusing is that? The Buddha goes, what? Yeah. How could it seem so logical to look for the Buddha? It could only mean you're looking from Steve. It doesn't make any sense for the Buddha to be looking for the Buddha, but it may make a lot of sense for Steve to be looking to acquire some Buddhist traits, you know? It makes total sense. And it's logical from that point on. From that point on, it becomes a logic. All right, Steve is in a lot of trouble. He's not feeling well. I've tried a lot of stuff. I've come upon Buddhism. I'm going to practice Buddhism with the hopes I'll acquire some Buddhist traits, you know, compassion, equanimity, all this stuff. Yeah? Sounds totally logical. But it isn't if you're the Buddha. See, if the Buddha uses itself to try to find itself, that's being lost, really. And the greatest way to be lost is in the methodology that you're using to try to find. You can't find what you are.
So what's the path then?
There isn't any. If there's any path, it's more seeing what you're not, understanding what you're not, studying what you're not, because you're experiencing what you're not all day. But do not apply trying to experience what you are, to study what you are, and to understand what you are. You'd have to be something else to do that, and you're not. The only possibility we have concerning what we are is being it. That's it. And we are being it right now, though the thinking system doesn't believe so.
Yeah, but then it's only happenstance. It happened to you, but there's no way I sort of can follow you or follow the same path.
Well, you can hear these messages, sort of like,
But
let's say the message is, come to dinner at 9. And then it goes, when, now, where, here. All right? So that's the message. It's always a message. So it's an invitation. So you come tonight, here's the message. Come to dinner, where, now, when, here. All right? Hopefully one time the invitation gets through Steve, Bill, Mary, and gets to the Buddha, and then the Buddha goes, what? Hits it, and then suddenly things have changed, because now you stop looking for what you are from what you're not, and you start seeing the production of what you're not from what you are. Yes? So now, instead of trying to look for that which is before from the after, you see the after from the before.
Can you give us an example? Something concrete. I mean, because I hear words, but I can't really. I'm trying to think of a lot of examples, but I can't come up with one that is concrete.
An example, all right, let's say somebody.
She should take herself as an example.
Yeah.
That's confusing.
But I'll play another one. All right, an example of it happening. Let's say if you seem to have been looking for what you are from what you're not, and then you hear it, yes? You put on the shoe and it fits. The example is you stop fucking looking for what you are from what you're not. So let's say if it's expressing through spiritual practices, they may end. Because why would I look for what I am from what I'm not? It's pointless. That's it. Is that a strong enough example? No? You want me to slap you?
No.
That's the message, Zen bitch slap.
No,
I'm happy to do
I need
it.
a concrete example. you say, why would I look for something that I'm not? What was that?
No, see, all right. There's an act of being identified as something you're not right now. That is happening. The mental state is actively in that act of being identified as a self, yeah?
Okay, something that I'm not. So there's something in me that says, okay, you're not a kind person. Or something.
No.
No.
There's something in you that assumes and implies and insinuates that it's you. When it's talking to you, it's implied that it's talking as you. It's an act of being identified. Just like, all right, let's say there's a guy named Stanley and my name is Paul. And suddenly, Paul has all these expressions coming through him or manifestations of Stanley. So Stanley
You're
is...
talking about Stanley.
Yeah,
now.
Stanley is manifesting through Paul, yes? And Paul, when he sees the manifestations, calls them Paul's manifestations, while they're Stanley's, yeah?
So how do you figure that? I mean, so then you're picking
You
up
don't figure it
Stanley's-
out. That which wants to figure it out is the what's not happening. You lose interest in figuring it out. You don't even have to understand this. It's already been, it's gotten in. You'll go home and maybe you'll think about it, and if it triggers this time, things will change. You'll start not taking your fucking self so seriously is one of them. And then maybe you come back or you hear it from another person and maybe it will trigger something. And then you'll be the concrete example that you're trying to look for. You'll start traveling lighter, not produced by your thought or effort, but as an expression of something or nothing, as Paul or as Mary. Yeah? Yes. And so the authenticity of it is verified by the living of it. Yeah? Yeah. So, yes.
I have an idea that might help. So one way that I find helpful to get out of the small mind, as in, thoughts, is you can just go into this state of awareness where I'm wondering what's gonna pop up next in my mind, or what thought is gonna come next in my mind.
Well, you just
And
caught
then you
it.
yeah, I mean,
I'm wondering what
so-
next thought's going to
No, I
come
mean,
up in your
yeah,
mind.
it's just-
That's what fear.
you are in the state of just, something comes up and then, oh, that's not me. So you've been able to see it, and that means that it's not you.
But let me share something with you. That's perfect, though, because that thing of I'm just going to see whatever popped up. That's popped up.
Yeah, of course.
See?
So
Then there's a sense it's you.
obviously, but-
Yeah. So that arises. This thought saying, "Oh, I'm going to see whatever pops up."
Yeah.
You didn't see whatever popped up. That's what was the first thing that popped up that you missed. And there's an assumption that's you, and now you're waiting to see whatever pops up.
Is what you say,
But that what's already popped up is going to claim everything else. I saw that. That's what popped up. But in clear daylight, it masquerades as you. Yes.
I have a question. Why do you assume that it's not you?
Hmm?
Why do you assume that it is not you? Or
No.
To put in other words, why do you assume that your thoughts are not your thoughts? Or there is higher I, which you, in your terminology.
Why do I don't assume it. See, the head assumes a lot. I've seen it, that's why. There's something that, if you want to use, I don't like to use, but priorness, let's say, yeah? And things come after. So let's say your basic conscious contact. You're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching today, yes?
Right.
All day. Has there been any effort involved in that?
Oh, but that is your mind, which is involved in that, and which...
No, I'm saying seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, like right now,
Yeah.
seeing. Is there any effort to see?
Yeah, of course.
Is there?
Obviously, I mean, if my brain was not working, I would have no...
But are you
Because
sweating?
something-
Does it feel like you're doing it?
No, it's not very hard physically. Because
Yeah.
but there is a process which does it. So, for example, I will give you an example,
Yeah.
right? You have like iPhone or whatever, Android phone, and when you say, "Hey Siri," it responds. But it is like constantly listening to it, and it looks like it doesn't sweat as well, right? But there is some process which is going on, right?
All right, so let's say that process is going on,
Yeah.
and there's consciousness of that process. There can be awareness of that process, yeah?
Okay.
So that is aware of the process isn't a process.
Awareness is also part of the process. It's
I don't see that, I don't believe that.
Well, you assume it's not.
I assume it, yes. I can't know for sure, but I have a strong assumption, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think the brain is producing consciousness or awareness.
That's a very big assumption.
Yes,
I have no idea where it came from.
but the assumption that it's the brain that's producing it is also an assumption. Because that which is studying can't be studied. All the science that they're trying to know something can't know the knowing. They can't get behind the knowing to know it. Yeah? You cannot get behind that. You can't, because you are that. This is the dilemma. You can apply seeking knowledge on everything other than what you are. What you are is always going to be before all the seeking for it. Yeah? You're never going to find it because you are it. While you're looking, while you're seeking it, that's what you're seeking. Just like this guy said it perfectly. He's saying, all right, and then he has this feeling, oh, I'm just going to see what arises, and that was what arose. Yeah, but that thing that arose has a sense, or there's the assumption, there's an assumption that's you. Yes? This is the heist. The mental state that arose as a process, yes? But the process implies that it's something other than the process. It's the one who has processes. So then, suddenly, he's going to watch all the other processes, like it's going to catch it, but he missed the biggest one, which is the sense that, oh, I'm only just going to sit around and see what arises. That's the heist, exactly what I'm speaking of. But you can take it back. Let's take sound, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Take sound. Sound isn't easy. It's easier than vision is very, very direct, like compromised by the mental state. But sound is very difficult to locate yourself in sound, yeah? Sound is almost like a wave and stuff like that. And have you ever heard like frequencies? Like a background sound in you? And then if you hear it almost as if something could be heard here, and you bring back that distance, it's before the breathing, it's before the heartbeat, it's before the sound of the blood moving, yes? That frequency always on, like different frequencies, yes? What's hearing that? It's the most constant experience here in my life, that sound. I can hear it when it's loud, I can hear it all the time. What's that's hearing that? So I would say that's the first sound and the most constant sound in my life. Yeah? What's before that? What's hearing that? What's hearing that cannot be heard. It's the hearing of everything. What's seeing cannot be seen. It's the seeing of everything. What's feeling cannot be felt. It's the feeling of everything. That which is feeling cannot be felt. Or as Hawaiian Post says, whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. Yeah? So whatever can be... You take it back. I mean, sound is a great one. Take it back as far as you can, yeah? And you're not meaning sound. Yeah? You are that. You are the hearer of all sounds. But that which is hearing cannot be heard because it's not an object to you. You're the subject. This is the dilemma. So the assumption is you're assuming an object is the subject.
Yeah.
You're assuming the body is producing the subjectivity. To me, that's a huge assumption. Because I believe the body is just a dreaming object, yeah? Mind is reality, assumed or not. But I know in my gut, like an unspoken yes. Because I saw something, not even saw, there was a seeing of what I'm not. And I haven't, wait, hold on. I'm open for it to go farther back, and I've never seen fucking anything. Yeah, so.
But if brain doesn't produce consciousness, why can you so easily influence your consciousness by influencing your brain?
That consciousness,
You take some substance.
now see, that's a certain workable consciousness that's defined by the apparatus, yeah? But what's behind that? The consciousness is not defined by brain or the 5 gates. There's insects that have 7 gates of experience. You could have 50 gates of experience and you'd have 50 different sensations, yeah? The consciousness is not defined by what it's moving through. You believe it's getting produced, but what can be produced or go unconscious is an aspect of consciousness appearing here. It's not consciousness. Consciousness is, you could have 8 trillion fucking things alive and they would be conscious. Yeah? There's not a source or a limited source of consciousness. It's a field, a huge field, not defined by the bodies it's moving through. You may have, to me, that's like putting the cart in front of the horse. Yeah.
So you are the subject and not the object. So if everything that is known to me, it's not me. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
So the body, the mind, the thoughts, the feelings are something known to me. He made that example.
Yes.
So it's like having two orders of reality: the projection, the objects which are not real and are being seen, heard, and felt by me, and the subject, me.
See, yes. So let's say there's the identification of body where the material world is taken to be so real, it's seen as the cause of the abstract, which to me, I think it's completely the other way around. I just think this is dreaming, to tell you the truth. Yeah? Just like Huang Po said, ancient Chinese master, he says, whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. You know, it's a simple little statement. Whatever can be perceived, so you're perceiving me, I'm perceiving you, we're off the game board. We're not that which is perceiving. Yeah.
And you mean that it's all, it can be perceived, but it's not real. So it's there, but it's not really there.
Well,
so
it's appearing.
It's appearing.
Yeah.
And it's appearing within a dream. And the
Look at
dream
what
is
happens.
real.
Let's say you wanted a concrete example. I have a perfect one. We went over it last night. I'm getting into it now. Thank you. You got me motivated. So let me take off the gloves. All right. So I had this chance for 16 years to lead workshops in recovery. Yeah. Every Monday night that I was in America, if I was there, I would do it. Every Monday night. There was a lot of Mondays. Yeah. 16 years of 52 Mondays. I don't know, a couple thousand Mondays. Yeah. So in those Mondays, before the talk, let's say just looking at that day, maybe I had a lot of pressing concerns, yeah? Maybe I was a little anxious about waiting to hear if I had AIDS or not because the report hadn't come in, I was an intravenous user. Maybe my girlfriend left me just before I was gonna go into the meeting. Maybe I hurt my leg or something. And so I had all these pressing concerns that seemed as real could be, and I got into the room, and I started to share, and all of those concerns were totally gone for that hour. I mean, every freaking Monday. Batting average was like 1,000. Every time I walked in there, I'm totally fucked up, no fucked up, nothing. Yeah? At least for the hour. Now, when I got out of it, my attention returned to this stuff, then all of this started to have its pressing effects, yes? On the action figure, on the brain, on this, on that, yeah? But it made a very big impression on me because it seemed so real, but it disappeared so quickly. How could it be fucking real? You know what I mean? Like something that's pressing, and then suddenly loses all ability to affect, gives you a certain, if you follow it, it starts implying something. How could that be real if it took no time for it to disappear? It must be fucking appearing, and it must be appearing to me to be real. Maybe I have a big role in what seems to be appearing to be real. Yeah? And the Course in Miracles, if you ever look into it, it's a very trippy book, but they say, hey, you and I are giving everything all the meaning it has. That is the apparatus. That's what we're doing here. It sounds like dreaming to me. And if you see that everyone's having a subjective experience of this event, in other words, the event isn't leaving a tattoo on you. You're going to make the event what you think it is. Yeah? What's that but dreaming? Or just the idea of placebos working just as much as the $500 pill. How could that fucking be? If this was a real place and you were really ill, and someone said, all right, this is the cure, $500, and you give it to 50 patients, 25 people get results, and then you give the other 25, in another study, 25 people a salt pill, but saying it's the $500 pill, and they get fucking the same results. I mean, you gotta start figuring something out. Like, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? Or you can feel like you're in heaven at 9 o'clock, at 9:05 you feel like you're in hell. That seems to be suspicious, that it could change so quickly. So I humbly believe we're a lot more than we imagined. And I believe a lot of that which we are here is, in a way, as a pointer, being misdirected. I think it's like the undifferentiated light comes in, and the mental state has like a kaleidoscopic lenses, and then it fractures into this place. But all still, it's all differentiated light, but it appears to be everything. And then suddenly, because we take ourselves to be the real as the dreamt, we see the dreaming as real, obviously. I saw it when I was young. My Uncle Fred died. I liked him a lot. 9 years old. So my mother brought me, he wasn't 9 years old, I was. Uncle Fred was older. And so my mother brought me to the funeral house, and it was an open casket, and she says, Paul, let's go up and say goodbye to Uncle Fred. I wasn't that interested in that, but I said, all right. So my mother dragged me up, and I looked into the coffin, and there I saw the body, but I realized that ain't Uncle Fred. Like that, instant. Whoop. Yeah? Because there was the body, but without the animating, it wasn't Uncle Fred. So I was basically mistaking Uncle Fred, in a sense, for the body. Why was I doing that? Because I was mistaking the animation for me, the body Paul. Yeah? It's a simple little correction. And what's going to be the best, what's going to get the greatest benefit from it is the body. Because the body cannot take being the center of the universe. You can't. It cannot be the object that's constantly thought about. It's way too much for it. You know? It really is. It's too much pressure having to be perfect. It is. It's fucking, so when it's like a giant mental hen lifting off the egg can fucking hatch and become a lot of different things. But with that fucking hen on it, it's gonna stay a fucking egg. Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. That's concrete enough, isn't it? Yes. You start getting hints, you know, and those hints lead to bigger ideas, and those lead to bigger ideas. And then maybe something happens, and it's a sufficient enough interruption that there's a scene, it doesn't take any time, no time at all, that it's always been exactly as it is right now. None of that which I believed happened ever affected it. None of that which I believe is going to happen could ever affect it. What I am is untouchable, in a sense, yeah? And therefore, that little bit, when it downloads into this and distills into this event, you start traveling lighter. That's all. You don't take yourself so seriously. You're able to move through things like cancer and stuff like that. And you don't get out of it, but you travel lighter through it. And after years of doing that, you go, hey, what more do you want? So in my view, my job is just to warn you of certain pitfalls that I don't believe, or I didn't believe, were being emphasized at a lot of spiritual talks, which is, this movement is very fast, this process. The brain producing the sense of self is supposedly less than 7 seconds. So, yeah? So they've done it very simple. They take a clock, yeah? They put the electrodes on the person. The person knows the experiment, so they're gonna screw around. They're gonna go, I'm not gonna do it, and then choose to stop the clock. But every time they do that, the brain went off about 7 seconds before. So this quote-unquote choice was already made, and then the narration comes and says, I was the one that made it. Yeah. So that which comes after says it's before. Don't you see that as it could be a little bit of a mistake? Especially if there was a horse and a cart, and the cart was before the horse. The horse would only have to fucking push it all day. Simple. Now the horse is in front of the cart. Things make sense. Blue is blue, red is red. Things become clear. Yes? Yeah. And you'll know the solution. You'll know it. You'll feel it. Yeah? And the solution will inform you about the problem. And basically, you're in the activity of the problem. We're dreaming. Yeah? We have a statement in recovery says, it's an acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real. That's what's mostly happening in one's head, yes? There's a lot of false evidence being presented, and then you and I either take it to be real or not. When you take false evidence to be real, it has a real effect, yeah? So next week, being totally afraid of next week can produce a dis-ease and a discomfort now by us, yeah? With what's happening entertains what's not happening, it can produce an effect from it now. That's what's happening all day. So a lot of people who are devotees of the thought system, you see they produce tons of anxiety. Tons of anxiety. They're almost under the physiological effects of fear, but without any apparent threat. Yeah? They're just getting zipped all day. And they're fucking nervous wrecks. And what can you do? You don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't feel it, what's driving them crazy. It's in their little world up there. This, in a sense, and it's like a byproduct, it's not in its intention, but an immunity grows to what's not happening. And in what's not happening, anything can happen. You can have cancer in what's not happening. You can be destitute in what's not happening. Your wife could leave you in what's not happening. But in what's happening, it doesn't have the qualities what's not happening has, but it has one quality what's not happening doesn't have, which is it's happening. Yeah? And the simple recognition of what's happening now can be a huge deterrent to the effects of what's not happening. Yeah? If you're actually present now, which I believe you are already, yeah? We just don't think so. The idea of getting into the moment is based on the insane assumption you could be out of the moment. I don't believe you've been out of any moment. So the just being exactly what it is. I mean, you're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. You're not, but they're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. What more evidence do you need? And this evidence should override all the imaginary, false evidence of what's not happening. I would imagine it could, yeah? Especially if what's happening is, locked into this. It would have an incredible immunity because it's only what's happening that makes what's not happening seem to be happening. What's not happening next week cannot fucking produce an effect on you. Next Saturday isn't sneaking into this Saturday. It isn't.
No, because it's not happening in the first place anyway.
Exactly.
That's the other thing.
That's the point. So why does it seem like this is all escaping us? Because we're in a mental here. We believe it's here, but it isn't here. It's a here chock full of yesterday and tomorrow. Yeah? It's like a depository for all what's not happening in what's happening. And we're the fucking truck.
Yeah, but you have to concentrate, I think, in the present. You can make stupid decisions that will affect the future you.
Yes, but that's not the point of this talk. We're not talking about the you and getting better at it. We're talking about, let's see that we're not that, and then take it from there. Yeah? Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes at these talks, I'm not just directing at you, it can easily turn into therapy, and that's not the message. Non-duality means not to. That's what it means. It means not to. It's a negation of an assumed event, so that you start questioning the assumption that it's subject-object, that it's this and that it's high and low, that it's this and that. You start questioning it, and if it leads to something, far out. Yeah? But non-duality is not a practice. It doesn't pivot and then you start looking for what's true. It just says seeing what's not true is the point. Yeah? Because what happens when you keep seeing what's not true, it's the truth that's freaking seeing it. That's what happens. And you realize, Jesus Christ, because you're going to see the activities that are being used to imply you all day. You're going to see it. You're going to see the advertisement stripped down. Yeah? You'll see the constant advertisement. See, the funny thing is, it advertises a product, but it presupposes or pre-assumes the product to be before. That's the trick, yeah? So, let's say conscious contact's happening. Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. The mental state arises, says it's the one seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. So it goes like this. That which comes after says it's before. Just like that. When you did a thing, that which came after was now going to look for what came after. Yeah. In a sense, by looking for what comes after, it implies that it's the before. That's the bondage, that's the identification. It's an activity. You and I have never been branded or tattooed. It's an activity. The head's in it all day. Watch it. Go into the memories. What do you picture as? A body. Go into the thought system. What do you thought about as? A body. Yes? Follow your eyes, these eyes. What do you see? Bodies. It's going to be quite easy to take yourself to be a body because you're listening to everything that you're hearing, thinking, feeling has been claimed to imply that you're a body. And so the dilemma is now, all right, so I'm not having much fun like with all this shit, but now you try to get out of the body as a body. That's the lock. Yeah? You try to get self out of self. You can't do that. That's the dilemma. You can't get interested in losing interest. That's interest. Yeah? You're the trick. Once you're introduced, it's like they say in physics now, the observation distorts the observed. That's what's happening here. Yeah? The greatest influence of every experiment is the experimenter. Yeah? You can look at light and you're looking for it as a wave, you see it as a wave. If you're looking for it as a particle, it appears as a particle. It's pretty trippy, eh?
So Paul, have you been getting better at it?
What?
I'm just interested at the process.
Yeah.
Is it, you said, I wasn't there last night, so I apologize for that, but it happened somehow? And then since then, has there been progress? In the
No.
sense that it hasn't changed?
None.
Nothing has changed?
No progress.
There was one dawning of the clarity and that was it?
No, it wasn't a dawning either.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the word, but.
See, how can what's always happening, how can it happen?
Well, something must have happened because you've had this insight, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what you want to call it, but.
No, it's always happening right now. I'd like to see it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, all right, so you believe something triggers it, yes?
No, I just want to understand. It
Oh.
was the moment you saw, and then what happened after?
A lot of seeing.
And was there more and more seeing, or was it from that moment
There
understanding?
wasn't more seeing, but there can be downloads because I have a seed assignment, which is to talk to people about it. So sure,
Okay.
yeah. But the seeing itself doesn't go more or less.
Mhm.
Yeah? Yeah. See, all right, so you believe you do something, okay? Let's say, and then something happens. Yet when that something occurs, it tells you it's always been this way. It's a very trippy thing. So yes, it looked like you did all this stuff, but then something cracks open, and the first thing that comes out of the cracking open is the sense it's always been this way. In other words, it just negates everything that you thought has happened or is going to happen. Just like that. It's like cutting an imaginary crop. Just, yeah? Now maybe it kicks back in, the movie kicks back in, but it's not something you need to remember because it's unforgettable. Yeah? So, okay, bam. So in a way, you can tell the story. Yes, I did this. I went to Walmart. The iron fell off the thing, hit me in the head. I woke up. And then people want to go to Walmart the same day you were there, have the fucking iron fall with the hopes that they can produce something that's not produced. Yeah. And so, yes, that was valid. I did all these things. But much more valid is when that which I was hoping, which you can't imagine, happened, it tells me that nothing ever happened. So all the work to get to the seeming goal, when the goal appears, it says nothing happened. So it tells you the work that you thought was producing this isn't producing this because it's unproducible. So what the hell can you say? You have to have, for everything, you've got to write two stories. You've got to write, all right, this is the story of Paul, yeah? And then you have to write the story of that, you know? Now here, where all the stories of Paul, Jim, and Mary, probably most people validate or believe in the story of Paul more than the story of that. But I believe in the story of that much more than the story of Paul. So when it tells me that nothing ever, it's always been this way, I sort of came out of it with that more than, oh, I did all this fucking shit and it fucking finally happened. Yeah. So, yeah. It's a weird thing because you don't want to invalidate the story, but usually the story seems to make an effect as if it's the cause. It's not true. It's not the cause. Yeah? Yeah. Yes.
Could you say it's a kind of projector which is projecting a certain movies, and you see the character moving within the movie, you see and understand that you are not that character, and that movie is also not real. So you're like a kind of, but something is being projected, you know?
Well, yeah, the movie doesn't stop. It's like the story I used with the hand and the glove, you know? You're in a world of one sense, which is feeling. And somehow or another, the hand, which is going to be what tells you everything about what's happening, has a rough glove on it, right? So everything it touches, though it touches thousands of different things, it gets interpreted by the glove, yeah? So no matter what you touch, the meaning of it is the glove's meaning. So the glove's giving the meaning to the rose petal, the glove's giving the meaning to the baby's ass. So you think babies' asses are rough, and roses are rough, and everything's rough, yeah? And so, but the animation of the glove isn't the glove, it's the hand. Yeah? So the hand is allowing the glove to interpret what's happening, because the glove can't get to the thing to feel, the hand does. But now the glove claims to be the hand. And so suddenly you start realizing, someone points to a book and you realize you're reading it as a glove, and it tells you, it's the glove that's blocking you off. There's a hand. So now the glove wants to become a hand. Yeah? So maybe it finds other gloves and they get together, like a pitcher's glove and a catcher's mitt and a fucking... So now they want to become a hand. All the while, so that's the way it defeats you again. So here's the message, your hand isn't the hand, it's the glove. So the glove says, okay, I'm going to fucking really work hard to try to become a hand. Well, it's already a hand. So the thing is, all you need to do is say, let's look at the glove and entertain the possibility I'm not the glove. What would happen if you entertain the possibility you're not the glove? Suddenly, your hand's in the glove, and one of the messages gets to the hand. You're not the glove. What possibility arises immediately? I can come out of it. Yeah? Now in this place, the hand goes back in, but it doesn't lose itself while living life as the glove. It's very clear that it's not the glove, even though it's in the glove. This is what this movie's like. You see the movie, but you're still appearing in the movie.
And you don't get confused again when you...
I get confused all the fucking time. I'm confused about why I'm here right now. I'm confused because I felt like I'm saying something very clearly. It gets translated into something else. So I've got to go, woo, wait a minute. Because again, you're overriding everything. I could say this as clear as I think I could possibly say it, and I've had this happen. I spoke to a spiritual group once about an hour about this self. And then at the end of it, the guy that was sitting like 3 inches from me goes, can you talk about self? I said, fuck. Jerry, for an hour. How did it get turned? It was only 3 inches. I mean, he was really too close. It was like right here. And I went, Jesus Christ. So it really, it has nothing to do with what I'm saying. It's how you're hearing it. It is.
No, but I like the example of the glove. Now I'm beginning to understand.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, it took
This is a tough crew.
Yeah, I know.
It's like breaking ice tonight.
Germans, you know.
Because what happens is, it's trippy. The mental state's recuperation is unbelievable. You can have an incredible event, let's say, called an epiphany, and the mental state, at some point in the epiphany, will arise and say, I'm having an epiphany, and there goes the epiphany. It's amazing. The mental state will claim its own absence. It will. You'll have moments of not just totally free from that thing, and then it will arise and say, oh, I've had an incredible moment. Yeah, that's how fast it is. And it's so habitual. It's like a horse. It's like a familiar rider, though not a good one, to the horse. So the horse it always gets on, and then it takes off. It was a perfect example how
Yeah,
what
but
you said.
doesn't it help to point to the state though?
Hmm?
Because I feel like, as I said yesterday also, I feel like I've been getting glimpses of this all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like what you're saying obviously shows how quickly the mind just kind of sneaks back in and claims it to be myself. But at the same time, I feel like just this example shows you that you are not the mind or you're not the thoughts. And so I think that's just what I was trying to point out.
Yeah. And so it's like an aperture, right? Like you were saying, we're projecting. So it's just like a thing. The aperture just opens up, and you see more. Just like if you were right on something, you may not see what's happening, but here you see what's happening. Yes? Different view. And that's all it is. The self-centeredness, that self-centered system that we're in, in other words, the way the self-centered system sees life is how it pertains to you, really. Yeah? That's why it's called self-centered. So everything isn't, you don't see life as happening, you see as life is happening to me. So it focuses it back to this imaginary, this object, imaginary object that's masquerading as the subject. Yeah? That's what it does. That's what self-centeredness does. So it's myopic, yeah? And it's also in time. So the possibilities that come into us, that get through to us, are cast in time. So you're not inherently okay, but maybe I will be okay. And I have memories when I was once okay, yes? So it disperses the possibilities, and they become goals that you're going to infrequently get to. When it's an innate condition, there is a basic okayness in what you are. Because what you are isn't really receiving the slings and arrows of this place. It isn't. It's untouchable. It's like the sky and all the shit that appears in it. None of it leaves a lasting effect on the sky. Yeah? That's what mind is like. So a little bit of that, downloading into this, what can it do? Find out. You know? For me, I have just traveled lighter for years, and I've lost total interest in looking for what can't be found. You know? I've lost the need to be, I have no interest in liberation. The real liberation is from the need to be liberated. That's the liberation.
Because you're free, you don't have any interest.
No, because, you know, I've lost fucking interest in it all. Yes.
I was going through an airport and I seen a book, and the book's entitled The Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yes.
And I was reading through this book, and halfway through the book, I couldn't give a fuck anymore reading the book.
That was a really
And I
good
thought to myself, why did I buy the book in the first place?
That's right.
It's just a thing. And I can hear a similar process here about, well, I suppose life to a certain extent, you know, like the worries, the fears and everything else. You grab it and then like, why care?
Exactly.
Or is it?
It's exactly, it's not like an indifference, it's just the interest and attention gets redistributed. Yeah? So your interest is here, and it's almost like, you know, that's sometimes they speak about the sense of presence. To me, the sense of presence is undirected attention and interest. Really. It's not being sent on fool's errands of, you know, if I wouldn't have done that, everything would have been great, or what's possibly could happen. It's just here. Like they call it the abidance in the truth. So your attention and interest is freed in a sense, and it's just around. Yeah, and it has enough to deal with a day. It never will have enough to deal with 50 years in a day. It has enough to make it through. I mean, go to the airport, get on the plane, have a cappuccino, stuff like this. Yes, it has that ability. But then it's just resting in and of itself. And that's sort of the sense of satisfaction without getting satisfied. Yeah? You're satisfied, but you're not happy, like you're not getting everything you want. It's a different kind of thing. You've had a sober assessment of like, you're never getting out of here as this, ever. Yeah? And it may never get better, really. Yeah, it's a trip. So it brings us, it's, you know, like that statement, giving up the ghost, it's sort of like that. You learn that you can fit yourself around circumstances instead of trying to fit them all around you. Yeah.
It's giving up the ghost, but also accepting the ghost at the same time.
Accepting. It has to do with acceptance completely. And when the acceptance starts showing up, you realize how much there wasn't acceptance. Yeah. Yes, you wanted a better moment, you wanted a better this, you wanted a better that. People come and they come to these talks and they tell me exquisite experiences they've had, and it's still not enough. When is it going to stabilize? It's like this, it's constantly desiring, da 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 da. Acceptance is like an atmosphere, yeah? And really, it's like gravity, you know. Here in Hamburg, we went to a cafe today, and I bet you in every cafe in Hamburg, not one person was complaining about the effects of gravity. They weren't. They were calling it a steep hill, right? Or those stairs. Just totally misidentifying what was causing the dis-ease, which was gravity. It's not the fucking steepness of the hill, it was gravity, yeah? And then, all right, so then you start trying to learn about gravity, reading books about gravity, and you go see a speaker who's an expert on gravity, and they explain everything with mathematical quotations or formulations. But basically, all you need to know everything about gravity is to go into an anti-gravity chamber, and by its absence, you'll fucking know it. And this is exactly what the solution is. By this absence of the effects of the problem, you know the problem. It's an activity that the solution is involved with.
Can you say that again? The effects of the absence of the what of the problem? What?
Gravity. If you want to know what gravity is, go into an anti-gravity chamber. Once the effects stop, you'll know the effects. Yeah? If something is always affecting you, you don't know the effect. Yeah? It's like, does the fish know it's wet? Probably when it hits the deck of the boat, but before that, it has probably no idea. Yeah? So here, you know the problem from the solution. Yeah? When you get relief, you'll know why there seemingly wasn't relief. That's how it works. I'm just sharing what's happening with me. So when a download occurs, it just tells me, it's like all reverse engineering. It tells me the manufacturing of the self. Yeah? It's never about seeing what I am, it's always about seeing what I'm not. And it just keeps informing me of what I'm not, and in that information there's a sense of what I am. I can't get a direct hit of it because I am it, but there's an intimation of it, yeah?
So you mean, sorry.
Yeah.
You mean you see the solution because there is no problem?
Well, you see from the solution. You can't see a solution.
You see from the solution because there is no problem?
Yes. Well, it's an activity. The solution is entertaining. Yeah? Yeah.
Just curious,
Yeah.
have you ever been to an anti-gravity chamber?
No.
No?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
But isn't that how you know?
How? I just have no idea what you can learn from it. I mean,
Well, let's say somebody was here like this.
all right.
You were born, right? And there was a hand put on your shoulder.
Okay.
And that hand was always there. Would you know it was there? So let's say it made your shoulder droop.
All right.
So you had to have tailored shirts,
Mhm.
yeah? And then you'd probably make up a story why you have a shorter arm,
Okay.
but it wouldn't be the fact. The fact is there's something like this. Then you would know it when it went like that.
Alright, you
Yeah.
just experience effects.
Exactly.
of
That's
it
it.
being absent. So, but what does it tell you about the gravity itself? You have nothing learned.
I don't want to know about gravity.
Okay, so just learn the effects of
Yes.
not having it.
That's all I want to know.
Alright.
See, if something is affecting me, and let's say it's causing, discomfort, yeah? Once I get the relief, that's all the knowledge I want. Yeah?
Alright.
I don't want to know why I'm fucked when I'm not fucked. There's a drive to want to know I'm fucked when I'm fucked. But when I get unfucked, I could care less. Yeah?
Alright.
That's why I'm not into the word why, because it's like, for me, you're the answer, And if you starve you, if you don't let people keep asking questions, it's going to become obvious that they're the answer. But it's not going to become obvious usually through questions. It isn't, yeah? You can't think about it, bro. You can, and there's no logic to it. The mental logic can only go so far. It's a failed system. It's a failed system. It's based on a premise that's not true. It isn't, yeah?
But you're using a lot of logical...
Of course, hopefully by fucking with the fucking, this logic, yes. It's the best way to infect it, is to make sense. Erode it from the inside.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a GPS that's failed, yes? Hasn't it? I shared it last night, but I'll share it with the people who are new. I did a talk outside Boston in this rural area, and got there late, in the middle of nowhere, and there was a railroad crossing, and there was a big commotion there. Lights were on, and the police were there. So we parked, and we were sitting there for a while, so the policeman came over, and we said, hey, what's happening? He says, oh, a lady drove onto the railroad tracks, following her GPS. So the GPS said, turn right. She turned right, and she, feeling the bump, and she went 20 more yards, because she, with the faith in the GPS. Her own experience, hey, something's wrong. No, just kept driving. She drove so far, they had to get one of those things on the tracks to tow her out. This is what it's like. The way the head ensures it's listened to is by presenting it as you. If you had Stanley's thoughts in your head, you wouldn't follow 1/8 of them if you could see them as Stanley's. Because they seem to be yours, you've been listening to them for 50 years. I wouldn't listen one thought in your head if I saw it as yours. But for 50 years, I've been listening to the same thoughts, but they're construed as mine. There's something going on here. It's not the thought, it's not the action, it's not the feeling. They're being used to bond us to an idea of being the doer. Yeah? Being the thinker, being the owner of shit we don't own. Yeah. And there's a possibility of just seeing it, that a lightness will come that you couldn't produce out here. It lasts because it's not of this place, it comes from us. Yeah? What you're looking for has to be brought here by you. It's not going to be found out by you here. It's brought here by you. Love and everything else comes from us. I just don't like this fucking sphincter of the mental state that's just like creating a lot of constipation and just you need like a big enema or something. Just freaking, the possibilities are slavery. To put peace as a goal is slavery. To put freedom as a goal is slavery. The freedom is prior to all this activity. It's brought here by us. It's not found here by us. It's brought here by us. Yes?
Sometimes we have to come back to the society, this where we are living in. I mean, it's not that I want automatically to find a hand and put me another glove and another glove and another glove. I can let it like it is, but I'm living in a world and I have to do with this, yeah?
Well, you have your seat assignment.
And I like that too. And I don't like that.
We all have seat assignments as the action figure.
Yeah?
Yes.
I mean, we have to a little bit kind of compromise with the world, yes? You do too.
Yeah, sure. But I'm not that. That's the good
No,
news.
of course.
Exactly. That's why, the point is, all these things are happening here. And as it said, like, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Render unto Caesar's what's Caesar's, This place has tuition, yeah? You're gonna, yes. But, and it's not contradicting the other possibility. From the other possibility, this is included. From this possibility, we think that cannot possibly be so because this is so. But from that, this is all included. Everything is included. This is a win-win. I like the way it views, yeah? This is myopic out here. But hey, whatever, this isn't a draft, or, you know what I mean, or an initiation. It's an invitation. I would entertain it and see where it takes you, yeah? If the shoe fits, wear it and see what happens. To me, I heard it, and it was like an unspoken yes, you know, something in me. And then it's been echoing ever since. Just, and there are basic pitfalls. This act of being identified as a self is very fast. I don't think there's a process that's going to beat it, to tell you the truth. I really don't. So I don't believe you can get out of this thing of time through time. Yeah? I believe there's a sense of timelessness that we are, that from there you can see what you're not. Yeah? That has worked for me. All the looking for what I am hasn't worked. And I gave it a pretty good shot. Yeah? And after blaming myself for years, I realized, what can a failed system show you? It's failed. So that you're left with your own devices. And then suddenly you'll see, or maybe over time you'll see, you are what you've been looking for. Yeah? And then life will be different. It won't be a place of acquiring, it'll be a place of expression. Yeah? The goals that you wanted to reach on the mystical level will be what's being expressed. There's a huge difference between knowing and being. There is. Knowing and understanding have their place. But in this topic, when you are what you're trying to understand, understanding isn't that helpful. Yeah? It's a way and means to live here, but it doesn't produce the being. The being will light up the understanding, not the understanding will light up the being.
That's why you can speak so good about it.
Well, whatever, it's just something. See, to me, it's inexhaustible. I mean, I've done tons of, I've never shown up to one of these talks, and the body, when it's shown up, has been sick, has been fucking burnt out, and it doesn't fucking matter. This thing is like it just has no end. It just keeps coming, yeah? And it usually produces a sense, you can feel it in the room, and it's like, it's just an incredible aha. It's like, it's just almost like you can taste music, you know? It's almost edible. And yeah. I'm moved to share it because I really like to save you time, tell you the truth. And that's one thing we can do here. We can save time, yeah? Because if you try to get all the somethings, they're going to add up to nothing. So why not start with nothing, yeah? You may not become happy and joyous and blissed out, but you'll be awake to being awake. Yeah? And you'll never get gypped. You'll be awake and you'll be there sleeping, you'll be there, you'll be so, it's like, if something is so there, you'll never recognize it. You just don't. If you do not see what's always here. You see what comes and goes. Relying on these eyes, yeah? So, yeah. I like the Germans though so far. Very tough crew. Yes.
How can you tell that?
Because I'm not German. That's the only way I can tell it.
Like the gravity chamber, the anti-gravity.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's the perfect teaching, right? That perfect. That was so beautiful. Yes. The only way I can tell is I'm not German. That's exactly how you recognize what you're not. You're not that. Yeah.
That's what I'm also not German. There are many not Germans.
Any Germans here at all?
Oh, so you triggered everything now. I went to this guy, he hates Germans. No, I don't hate Germans. I like Germans. I've had a nice little whirlwind tour. Italians, Germans, Irish, English. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm happy you guys, oh yes. No, of course.
So we spoke so much today about ourselves, how we perceive what we are not, and important in my life is that my surroundings is awakening as well. I have friends and my partner who I'm trying to help to be more present, to come in the same state as many probably of us are. And I want to ask, do you have some advices in this direction? So, I mean, we've been focused on ourselves so much, but
Yeah.
I think spreading the idea is probably so much more important.
Well, the best thing is to be an example, obviously. Yeah? So, the presence isn't produced. Yeah? It's obvious. Once you give up the insane ideas that you could be out of a moment, which is totally, talk about an assumption, that's a huge assumption. The mental state assumes it can misplace you out of this moment, which is impossible. No matter how many memories you have, you've never left the here and now, ever. So, yeah? So to hold the space for the person to be what they are and what they're not is an innate talent, really. If certain things get out of the way. Yeah? I would say that's the best. I've had yeah. This is the point, again, why the emphasis, because I have a very small specialty in speaking, yeah? I'm not a relationship counselor, I'm not a lot of things, I'm not a financial advisor. All I'm sharing with is a movement of the mental state that when it's completed, you start there, yeah? You don't see the act of identification, you start looking from the identification, yeah? So, you have the ability, but see, if you believe you're at square zero and square zero is zero, you're not gonna look for square zero, yes? So, this way, we're trying to share a warning, and hopefully as you go about your day, you'll see some things that you may not have been seeing, and it's going to lead you to a possibility, yeah, that's going to, not you, but there will be a recognition that you can start prior, yeah? There's a possibility to live from what's before thought, not live as the effect of thought, yeah? Or not live as that which was being massaged by thought all day, but before thought. We in recovery, we call it the pause, yeah? So there's a space before thought that we are, yeah? The only thing is, many of us aren't entertaining the possibility, and when we do, we entertain the possibility from what we're not, you see? So the what you're not neuters the possibility of what you are. Because it turns it into a goal that what you're not may want to look for, yeah? This is the dilemma I'm trying to share in thousands of ways, because I believe it's like the glitch that's the little scratch before all in the first part of every album, so to speak, yeah? And then it follows the rest of the songs. It's sort of like the shadow. And it can't be corrected through its process, yeah? So self can't get out of self. So if the self is presented and it's taken to be you, and then it starts feeling the irritability and restlessness, it may blame a lot of things like the stairs or the hill for the effects of gravity. Yeah, but it's very rarely gonna look that maybe you're mistaken. Maybe your whole sense of view is manufactured, yeah? But if you hear this message, it may resonate, and maybe that which can see farther than the looking that it's being used for, yeah, there may be a seeing of something, yeah? And that is going to be incredibly beneficial to others without much trying to be beneficial to others, yeah? So, I just have a belief that if this isn't seen, you'll be looking from it, yeah? Because that's how it dawned with me. When things started to download in me, all they explained was 50 years of my living, yeah? It was like a nanosecond. It was like all this stuff, all this information suddenly stuck with one little template explaining it all. It was mind-boggling, and it took no time. It was just like, Jesus, I heard the statement, self can't get out of self, explained my whole life since I was 6 years old, yeah? Then, hey, you can't use the Buddha, seek the Buddha, all my fucking spiritual practices, just explained, years and years of it. I mean, that's fucking good, cool, that's a good transfer of information. Very tiny little bit, huge expansion, yeah? And you want to call it being thoroughly convinced, I don't know. There's an assurance that comes over you that you don't have to be thinking and trying to remember it all day, you just know. Yeah? There's a knowing that no matter how much you're involved in the glove, you're the hand. And I don't believe it's innately available. All that you may need to do to clear out fucking ignorances and shit like that, that's not my specialty. But at least get reset, you know? It's like buying maps to LA, assuming you're leaving from Omaha. They may have value, but if you're in LA, they don't have value. You're already fucking in LA. You don't need a map to LA. But the assumption is you're in Omaha, so you're buying tons of maps. How can I get there the fastest? What's a 5,000-year trek to it? I'm going to follow that. It makes total sense if you're in Omaha, but you're not in Omaha. That's what I'm humbly sharing. You're in LA. What you're looking for is what's looking. Now. When? Now. Where? Here. To me, it's like it's always available at all times. Not to you, just always available. Is awareness doing awareness? It's aware. That's what its nature is, yeah? Being's nature is being, yeah? It's not doing and having. I just don't believe you can do and have yourself into a state of being. I do not believe it. Yeah? Yeah. From experience, not assumption. Yes.
But this is a kind of method to say, this is a kind of path and a kind of method to say the best way to find what you are is to check what you are not. Yes?
Well, no, because you can't find what you are.
Well, I mean...
But see, if what you're not tries to stop looking for what it is, it doesn't go anywhere. You just see you're not what you're not. Yeah?
Yes.
That's it.
And this is a kind of method, because you can do that all the day, just like you say, till the moment maybe where something is happening, yes? Or do you think that it's a kind of thunderstorm path?
It's sort of like a baseline. A lot of different notes and different trebles and things are going to happen, but it's a baseline, sort of like this. The underlying base of every day, all day, is like a... There's a lot of movement, blah, 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 but those movements don't crowd out the... So... Attention, while attending to a lot of things, is attending to that. They're not two different events, yeah? It can attend to that while attending to a lot of things. It's not one or the other, yeah? So you don't have to remember what already is, always is. because you can't forget it. It's not forgettable and it can't be remembered because it's never not, it's always here. Yeah? There's not a second for you to get wet. You are wet. Yeah? I don't care how much you think you're dry, you're thinking you're dry as wetness. Now that can become more convincing in you, excuse me, which will allow you to sort of see through a lot of stuff that you wouldn't see through before. But the point is, it starts with a possibility. You've been served a spiritual subpoena. I've done my job. You're going to be called to a court of light, and all of your fucking mental charges will be dropped. Now you can put on those shackles again, or you seem to put on the glove, but it never changes the fact that you're a hand. And you don't waste any time trying to find the hand as the glove. You just see you're not the glove, and bammo, you're the hand. As if you just suddenly became it. But in fact, you've always been that. I'll tell you one story. Aren't you beaten down yet? One more story from Ramana Maharshi, famous one. There's a lady with a necklace, beautiful necklace. And the lady loses the necklace. So she's really bummed out. So she asks her friends, hey, would you help me find the necklace? So they start looking for the necklace everywhere. And then one of the friends says, oh, I heard about this guy who says he found the necklace. So let's go to the talks. Maybe we can learn how to find the necklace. So they go to the talks, and this guy's saying, yes, if you do what I did, and you go here, you will find the necklace. Not now, but in the future. Yeah, just keep coming back, laying money in the donation bag. And one day you're going to find the necklace. So she's totally going for it, and she's practicing, but nothing happens. So suddenly a guy comes in and he says, why don't you feel around your neck? And she feels around the neck, and she's found the necklace. But did she find the necklace? It was always on the neck. Yeah? Her experience is, oh, I found the necklace, but it had never been lost. So did she find the necklace? But when she thought she lost the necklace, she was bummed out. And when she when she believes she found the necklace, she's blissed out. What's that but dreaming? You're dreaming that you can lose something you can never lose, with the hopes of finding something you can never find. There you go. How can you find something that's not lost? This is the message. I don't know how they've said it in 800 different freaking ways. They're basically saying it's right underneath our noses. Yeah? Why they say it's the open secret. Well, how could it be a secret if it was open? Exactly. It's not a secret. It's the gateless gate. How could there be a toll at a gateless gate? There isn't. There's no gate you have to enter, nor there's a gate that you could leave. It's gateless. These, they're cryptic little statements. The seeker is the sought. What's looking is what you're looking for. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. The funniest, the greatest mystery of all is that reality trying to attain reality. To me, it smacks of there must be an act of being identified as something that you're not that could produce such a delusionary effect that you would go spend your whole life looking for it. Now, what could pull that wool? What could pull the wool over reality's eyes but reality? Yeah? I don't think anything could get away with it, yet reality. So I humbly believe we are reality in a sense that's taking itself seemingly to be a thing and giving meaning to all other things. Yeah? There you go. I can't say it much clearer. I'm going to listen to this talk myself. It's very convincing to me. But I'm always singing to the choir, basically. I'm a true believer. I guess that may have something to do with it. I think we all have the ability to be convinced. I do. And if you get convinced of something, that surety abounds, yeah? It doesn't get moved by all the changing of the tides or all the fucking weather changes. It's the new base. See, there's a great Zen saying that you can't use activity, which is the mental state, yes? The mental state is totally in activity, isn't it? You can't use activity to produce stillness. That would be activity. This is the dilemma. We're attempting to use something that's agitated to find peace. What does it do? When it finds peace, it uses it to agitate more. So now, if you have a feeling of peace, you start worrying, will I feel peace tomorrow? It's all fucked up. You know? Just like enlightenment and awakening, people would have been so much better off if they never heard those terms. The mental state has used it to fucking drive them crazy. Especially the worst one is when you think you were awake and you've lost it. That's the fucking, that's unbelievable. So I did something to get awake, and therefore I did something to lose it. Man, I humbly believe we're all inherently awake as awakeness. Here, in the dreaming, you can seem to be awake to that. In other words, it will appear to that which is awake that it's awake, or it can seem to appear that you're not awake to it. So that not awakeness will appear to be true to that which is awake. The fact is, the awakeness is the fact, yeah? You can seem to be awake to that, or you can seem not to be awake to that. But it doesn't change the fact, yeah? So the seeming not to be awake of it needs time, because it's a magic trick, yeah? It's not true, but it can seem to be true. It needs time to play out its little story. That's why a life only lasts 90 years. You couldn't play out this story in 150 years. It would have tons of fucking holes, yeah? But 90 years, yeah, you can feel like you've been a body for 90 years, you know? That you've been the doer and the cause of everything. But that's 90 years, it's fucking nothing. And we're trying to make it everything. We're passing just like the little fly passes. It's insane. Why would you want to put your money on what comes and goes when you can put your money on what's always available at all times? It just makes no freaking sense. Is it that great to be you? I don't know. I'm tired of the story, seriously. I've been around like the carousel, you know, picked a lot of the rings. The gold ring always gets tarnished. It's like you always run into Buddhism 101. Everything isn't satisfying because it's not real. Yes? You're not going to find lasting satisfaction with things that come and go. It's basic 101, you know? You buy one jacket, it won't do it, and you buy a 30th jacket, it won't do it. There's a seeming hole that you can't fill. Yeah? Like in Tibetan Buddhism, they have that picture of the hungry ghost, which is a guy with a huge belly but a really small mouth. It can never fucking get enough. I rest my case. You're going to see it. Go home. Entertain it. See what happens. You know, don't make a mistake. The messenger is not the message. So fucking don't call me about it. You know, just you've been served. See what happens. Yeah. This idea that the people are what's delivering it. You know Carlos Castaneda? He wrote a lot of those books. My friend was with him for about 3 years. Now, after they try to prove him to be a fraud, but did that change the fact of how much effect those books had on us? It has nothing to do with the messenger. It has to do with what's hearing the message, yeah? We can make fucking gold out of shit, yeah? You could wake up from reading a telephone book, if that's the way it wanted to go, yeah? Why would you want that which comes after to define that which is before? Like in AA, we have this thing of turn your will and life over to the care of a higher power greater than you, or God, of your own understanding. Why would you want a God of your own understanding? I'd much rather have a God of its own understanding. Much more revelatory. Why would I want to let all that light come through a very fucking small window? just comes through. None. Nothing sticks, ever. That's how you travel later. You're not a storage unit. You don't have the wisdom of the ages. This talk is all completely forgotten when I walk out of here. And I don't think about this shit ever. I don't even talk about it. My girlfriend has not one bone, she's got no interest in spirituality whatsoever, completely. I mean, I've been with her a while, there's not 1 inch of it in there. It's great. You never talk about any of this. It's just awesome. Why do you need to talk about it? Talk about other things. Why do you want to talk about this thing? Just you're being it. You're being it while you're talking about other things.
Yeah.
Yes?
I wanted to ask you about, your experience, because it seems to me that, that when this taste comes,
Yeah.
more and more, and, that the person, the brain learns, how to make it to come, the situation, in which situation it can come, or whatever, breathe in, breathe out, And it seems for me, in my experience, I'm getting a little bit confused about, am I experiencing this, or am I escape or using it, using my brain to produce this, to escape situations, emotions, difficulties, pain, whatever, arises, and this, you know what I mean?
Yes,
I
I
don't
do.
know if I use, if I use it as a suppression, or is it real? This is
Yes.
was the question.
But you see again, in a way, you were here earlier when my friend, it was not using you, it's just that it was perfect
Don't take me personally.
when something arose that implied it was you, to watch what else arises. So that's what's reacting to see if it's an experience or something like that. Yes? What's wanting to know isn't you. It doesn't matter what it's doing. Is it helping you in a way? It's like let's say if you were doing service and feeding people, but you were looking, I think I'm doing it because it makes me look better, but the people still getting the fucking food. Yeah? To them, they don't give a shit what you're doing, they're getting the food. Yeah, this is all selfing to me.
Okay, so, okay, I understand. So, okay, so the questioning, what it is, it's activity itself, which
Oh, yes.
doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. See, usually, again, the question arises and it's used to imply the questioner. Yes? Hey, see you, bro. Yeah. All right, so now you're the questioner. You're prior to that. All right? So then maybe you get clearer and you realize you're not the questioner, and it arises, says, hey, I'm not the questioner. You're prior to that. Nothing is before you when it comes to the scene. Nothing is. You can see, there is 100th monkey syndrome. You ever heard that? So monkeys, they discover a tool, one of them does, and then suddenly 2 or 3, and then the whole tribe gets it, yeah? That to me is sort of like mind. So you see the nature of the mental state, that it arises to claim. You don't have to see 8,000 claimings, you see about maybe 5 or 6, and you see the whole 8,000 claimings, yes? The mind doesn't need 800 examples. It may only need 1 example. It could maybe use 12 examples, but you'll know it. That's done then. Yes? Okay, it got it. Mind gets it, and therefore it entertains other possibilities. You don't have to beat the fucking horse. It's a dead horse already. You've recognized that the mental state, wherever you are, is going to arise and claim to be the you that's there. That's what it's going to do. And there's no forbidden zone. It's going to claim everything that ever could possibly occur here. Yeah? It's going to arise, and knowing that, when you see it, it gives you a hint that you're not that, and that's the sense of what you are. I don't know how else to say it, but You're prior to everything that can be perceived. And what is that but a perception? You're seeing thoughts, that's perceiving, yes? And after a while, you don't have to, it's like that place where you go into is stabilized, yes? So the screen, how many people at movies clap for the screen? You know, the movie ends, because the screen is what allowed the movie to occur, yeah? And there could be 800 different movies that appeared on the same screen. Like a melodrama didn't get the screen wet, or army movie didn't cut the screen open, yes? That's sort of what the baseline is. We have that, it's available, yeah? So now the baseline, so all the movies are happening in, but they're not movies that begin and end. They're just almost like a stretch of film going across light, let's say, just keep going, yeah? The head wants to go this, cut it all up and make individual stories of it to imply you. But basically, it's almost like a living mural. The attention seems to be on this movement, but every once in a while, it can go to the screen, yeah? Now, the movie looks totally different from the screen point of view, yes? Totally. And you get a hit, because you're available to both, yeah? Boom. What happens now? Maybe it gets more of a habit. The movie is watched, but there's a sense of the screen to the point where you don't have to remember the screen because you can't forget the screen. Without the screen, nothing else is fucking happening. So you are obviously the screen. You can't know it, you can't have an experience of it, you can't get it, but you are it, yeah? What does it happen? It allows the traveling lighter of those characters in the movie. And as the character, it's like manna from heaven. It couldn't figure out how to, it's trying to live a light life, makes it heavy, just like that. People start meditating, and then if they miss a meditation, they think their whole day sucks. Oh, I gotta get home at lunch, is that fucking freedom? It's another form of slavery. So that which you think is leading you to freedom becomes another form of bondage. This is what it does, yeah? So now there's a sense, yes, the movies are coming and going, but you're not that which comes or goes. It's going to have an effect somewhere, yeah, probably here. Yeah. And it's so obvious this had nothing to do with it, that this is just the conveyor of it. This is like the expression of it. It's not that, it's not the cause of it. Yeah? Yeah.
So what you're describing, is that what happens when you allow step 3 to happen, like turning it over to that higher power of your, not of our understanding?
It can go a long way.
Let go of the self.
It can go a long way, but the act of being identified isn't captured by, it isn't captured by relief of alcoholism. It's the prior addiction. I don't believe we're getting to the source. The source is the mental state is addicted to the idea of being a self.
Right, but in that step 3, you turn over your will and your life.
Yes.
They don't talk about alcoholism.
Exactly. Of course it goes a long way, but there's an identification as the one who turned over their life. Where, let's say, if you take Ramana, he talks about surrender quite a lot, but on one level, the absolute surrender is who is there to surrender and to whom? Yeah? So there's a surrendering of the idea. See, like people will go, I want to learn how to let go, but it's premised on the fact that they're holding on. I don't believe you're holding on. I don't. I don't believe there's anyone to hold on, so I'm not interested in letting go. It's weird, I'm just sharing what works for me. I didn't, see, if you try to get out of what you're not in, it promotes what you're not in, yeah? So, if you have an experience of being out, it's going to be led into a bigger experience that you're back in. What works for me is seeing there's no need to escape from an imaginary place. It looks like you're in the experience of being out, but it wasn't produced by escaping. It was produced by not realizing you were never in. And then it's not a random event. The logic is always that way. Yeah? You see, how I'm out of it is not because I escaped and I have a great heroic escape. I wasn't in it to begin with. That's the beauty of the message. There's nothing that needs to be undone. Seeing it before you believed it was happening. Yes, yes, yes. It's the slacker's way. You know a slacker? Yeah. Yes, perfect slacker. Because it's really basically saying your own interest and drive is the biggest deterrent in a way.
It's kind of Taoist, isn't
What?
it? It's kind of Taoist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes.
So imagine a self-helping group of screens. So
Yeah.
what happened to you? The screens are telling each other about which movie happened.
Yeah.
And they are meeting for years. And all of a sudden, one of the screen realizes it's not about me. It's
Yes.
not about me.
Great. Yes. I'm going to use that one. I like that one. Yes. See, but the head, you just see it. It's an addiction. It is. Yeah. Why do you think there are other addictions? The addictions were seen to be a solution to that addiction. When I did drugs, I was trying to get out of self. That was the drive. It wasn't about fun. I wanted to get out of that. And, you know, I share this a lot, but as a spiritual seeker, I wasn't that great, you know. Didn't have a great resume. I didn't do all this stuff. Yeah? So maybe you could find fault and say, well, if you only would have practiced better. But when it comes to fucking devotion to drugs, I was perfect devotee. I would match my devotion to cocaine with every spiritual devotee in the spiritual history of Rama and Hanuman. I was right up there. I did fucking anything for it. I loved it. I would take anything you had to give it. It treated me fucking terribly, and I still went back. And I gave it the best I could give it. I've overdosed tons of fucking times. And I'm telling you, you cannot transcend an imaginary place. You're not getting out of here by that which is here. Never. Maybe it's an assumption, but I feel like I've had enough evidence to jump into that assumption. Because I swear, I took cocaine, shooting cocaine, as a religion. I did. It was a spiritual event for me. I loved the ritual, and I thought if I could just pull my head tight enough without dying, I'd snap out of it. Well, guess what? It didn't work. So there you have it, man. So what, am I going to keep blaming myself? I can't even overdose? They bring me back? No, I'd rather look at, wait a minute, maybe I can't get out of an imaginary place. Let's start directing the attention in another way, because this ain't working. Looking this way. And I'm not going to focus, I'm going to disperse this way. Not with a lot of interest, not with a lot of fucking concentration, just and see what comes back. Yeah? And what's come back is really nothing. And lightness comes from nothing. Yeah. So, and you know, all that you need to add on to take care of the action figure, there's tons of skillful means, tons of practices, and tons of shit you can do to lower your blood pressure, have more flexible joints, feel love. If you have a desire, if you're like a bhakti type or devotee type, you have kirtan, you can sing ecstatically. There's beautiful ways of expressing. But maybe give up the pursuit of what you are, you know? And maybe if you would stop that, maybe you'd find out you are what you've been looking for. But it's not going to be found by looking, yeah? Yeah.
So you're sort of, you could have high blood or low blood pressure. Basically gives you the idea, then you buy that tool and you get crazy about that, and by doing all this, you drive it up.
Yes, of course. Yes. Have you seen people who look really good and then they hear they have cancer? That night they look like shit, even though they had cancer the day when they were looking good. As soon as the head hears it, bam. It's fucking powerful. I'm telling you, look at what Jaws did to people in the water. I saw a shark in Australia, and I swear to God, the Jaws soundtrack came up. Doot, doot, doot. I swear to God, it was unbelievable. Fucking, what? Where's the music coming from? We are soaked. We are fabricated. In recovery, we talk about resentments, which is refeeling. We're refeeling fucking everything. We're rehashing everything. We're rethinking everything. It's like Groundhog's Day, in a sense. But we're all in a little secret. Let's make it look like it's different. But fuck, really. If you ever done journals, you know, go back to ones you wrote 20 years ago. It's the same fucking thing, you know. Or someone just said they read a magazine from 80 years ago, a German magazine. Same shit they're bitching about. Same thing they're bitching now. I mean, it just goes round and around and around. Oh, I'm afraid of. 20 years later, I'm afraid of. You change the objects, but the fear is the same. Fuck. I love it, man. This message is so fucking cool because it's not demanding anything. You don't sign up. You don't have to renew. You don't have to keep practicing. It will maybe, if you're in recovery, it'll illuminate recovery. This is not a path to illumination, but it will illuminate whatever path you're on. That's the beauty of it. But it's not a path to illumination, but it will illuminate whatever path you're on. Whatever seed assignment you have, it will bring light to it. Yes? Yeah, so that's it. You've beaten me down. It's like a marathon.